My fellow world citizens, let us summarize the 9/11 truth for the sake of world peace and justice. My voice is not good enough, suffering from cold, but this recording is important, so I'm doing it. US media never told Americans what Bin Laden could do for the success of 9/11 attack against the sovereign democratic United States of America. A long-term cold-blooded operation executing covert multinational plan implemented using historical loyalist crusaders inside US military, intelligence, justice, FBI, and State Department, Congress and White House, Council on Foreign Relations, CFR, and various pertinent agencies, including Federal Aviation Agency, FAA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, and National Aeronautics and Space Administration Agency, NASA. Bin Laden couldn't write current Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's dossier from Harvard University, which became Newcon's project of the New American Century, PNAC, asking for new Pearl Harbor as prerequisite for US-NATO militarism in peacetime. Bin Laden couldn't ask President Ronald Reagan and Vice President George Henry Walker Bush to create all-Republican shadow government, COG, with key Democrats' knowledge, headed by Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, and Richard Clarke, which would take over Bush administration during 9/11 attack. Bin Laden couldn't force US Congress to pass a law in January 2001 empowering FBI as the only authority, plan, for terrorism-related incidents inside USA, including military. Bin Laden couldn't give refurbishing contracts for the most secretive Pentagon's wage area, exactly where American Airlines 77 would hit, to British oil and energy conglomerate, AMEC, and ask AMEC to subcontract it to Canadian Mars Diesel with connection to Swedish ABB and Asia. Bin Laden couldn't tell New York Mayor Rudolph Giuliani to hand over World Trade Center buildings, WTC 1 and 2, to private Silverstein Properties and Westfield America 6 weeks before 9/11 from secured long-term guardian New York, New Jersey Port Authority. Deal presided, blessed by covert Nazi co-founded Bilderberg's ex-chairman and current advisor David Rockefeller, who preached for less sovereign America for establishing the world government of bankers and elites. Bin Laden couldn't give contract to monarchical Kuwaiti security company in charge of all 9/11 related airport security, where Florida Governor Jeb Bush used to be a board of director. Bin Laden couldn't make Dr. Dov Joachim, dual Israeli citizen, comptroller of Pentagon in May 2001, who had utmost knowledge of WTC architecture and flight termination. Bin Laden couldn't award an Israeli government-owned shipping company, Jim American, inside WTC to perform WTC security study and leave WTC before 9/11 attack on Twin Towers. Bin Laden couldn't ask Euro-American presidents, prime ministers, statespersons, CFR members, news media directors, and military brasses to attend most secretive Bilderberg meeting in Sweden, May 24-27, where the final execution plan was masterminded against American sovereignty to empower NATO monarchies. Bin Laden couldn't force FBI Acting Director Thomas A. Pickard and FBI Director Robert Mueller, as well as FBI Radical Fundamentalist Unit RFU Chief Dave Frasca, block INS arrested Chechen Al-Qaeda Zacarias Moussaoui and his belongings, including laptop, from searches by other FBI and INS agents, which would have revealed real 9/11 attack plan and script written for Zacarias, post 9/11 admission for cover-ups. Bin Laden couldn't perform 9/11 rehearsals in US Department of Transportation, where Boeing 757 was hitting buildings and air hostesses were making calls using cell phones. Bin Laden couldn't ask Bush administration to declare Palestinian statehood at the United Nations on 9/13/2001, which would inflict wrath of Zion's Christian soldiers on USA. Bin Laden couldn't ask US military, Air Force, NORAD, Navy prepone yearly Global Guardian military exercise from scheduled end of October to week of 9/11/2001, running war games as doomsday military exercise, with simulations of Boeing planes hitting WTC and Pentagon run by Pentagon's Crisis Action Team, CAT. Let us also explore what else Bin Laden couldn't do from distant caves of Afghanistan for the success of 9/11 attack against USA. Change normal US hijacking protocol overriding need sector commanders' power of scrambling fighter jets after the hijackers. Authorize Mike Canavan as FAA hijack coordinator, the sole contact for the National Military Command Center, and make sure he hides in Puerto Rico without answer. Order General Montague Winfield Brigadier entrust Charles Liddick, the deputy for Command Center, in charge overseeing the period during 9/11 disaster. Stop airliners from listing hijackers as passengers with their Islamic names on ticket and computer, validated by passport and license having picture. Couldn't stop pilots and crew members, activate transponders located at multiple points throughout jet airliners, informing ground control, I have been hijacked. Couldn't order FBI to doctor cockpit voice recorder for half an hour, recording, concealing hijacking saga. Could never override Boeing's anti-collision feature, which would never allow planes to hit high-rise structure like WTC. Bin Laden couldn't stop President Bush from ordering exercise in Global Guardian, bring those planes down docking on the transponders. Bin Laden couldn't order Vice President Dick Cheney not to fire missiles from Pentagon to stop Flight 77 over military space from hitting Pentagon, especially after knowing of the attacks on the Twin Towers. Bin Laden couldn't ask US military to shut down Flight 93 over Pennsylvania because the engineer pilot got back manual control, overriding remote hijacking, and was flying away from remote control boundary. Bin Laden couldn't ask Pentagon and Congress not to arrest then ISI director of Pakistan, accused of transferring USD 100,000 to Atta's Florida account. Rather, invite him for meetings at National Security Council, NSC, and Pentagon with unspecified officials at the White House, especially long meetings with CIA Director and Porter Goss, with Senator Bob Graham, John Keel, and Joe Biden, Representative Christopher Cox, and Undersecretary Mark Grossman. Bin Laden couldn't ask US government not to attack Saudi Arabia for alleged 15 hijackers, Germany for sheltering and guarding Muhammad Atta, and Pakistan for funding the alleged ringleader. Bin Laden couldn't tell US Congress not to investigate trillions missing from Pentagon fund, FBI to destroy audio air traffic controllers, and not to investigate steel beams from World Trade Center. Now let us see what Bin Laden couldn't do for post 9/11 cover-ups for solidifying military coup towards re-annexation. Ask President Bush and Vice President Cheney to force Congress not to investigate 9/11 and FBI stop all local police investigations. Ask FBI Director Robert Mueller to send Zacharias Moussa's laptop back to France without investigation, though FBI had tons of French translators. Ask FBI destroy Ronkonkoma air traffic controller's audio tape, though in charge of all terror-related evidences and investigations. Couldn't ask Pentagon to hire British oil and energy conglomerate with Saudi and Swedish ABB connections for clearing all debris of Pentagon and World Trade Center, bypassing FEMA, as well as award reconstruction of Pentagon unilaterally to EMEC. Couldn't ask New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg to sell all WTC steel beams to India and China for recycling immediately without forensic investigations. Couldn't force FBI to confiscate all Pentagon's video camera and hide flight recorders from WTC and Pentagon. Couldn't ask US Congress to seal 9/11 documents for 50 years. Couldn't ask FBI to send US military-grade anthrax to Congress and senators. Postal services to derail post-9/11 mailing and discourage US journalists and reporters from analyzing 9/11 truth, rather encourage to promote the Bin Laden story coherently. Last but not least, close Statue of Liberty from public viewing and inspiration for rewriting history of American Revolution to defy United British Monarchy. My fellow Americans, aren't they enough food for thought for American Orange Revolution to regain sovereign USA, because 9/11 proved how corrupt and criminal US government, justice, military, intelligence, and many agencies became, which unitedly working against American freedom and open democracy, avoiding investigations and justice. God bless our world. God bless America. God bless democracies around the world.